Mike, what have the last 2, 3 months been like for you with the season stopping, starting, stopping, starting? How did it wear on you?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of uncertainty, but I think the main goal of mine was just to continue to try to get better each day, work on just getting stronger, faster, and kind of continuing to perfect my craft and all that kind of stuff, especially with Coach Trout and some of his new techniques. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of uncertainty, a lot of back and forth. We are going to play, we're not going to play, but finally we got the word we're playing, and it's been just full head of steam from there. So.
Thank you for that. We'll go next to Andrew Porterfield.
Hey, Mike, thanks for doing this. We talked to Will Levis earlier, and he described a 30-year-old dad, and that he also plays video games with you. What's the dynamic with Will that you have?
Yeah, I love Will. He's a really good kid. Comes in, works really, really hard every single day since he got on campus, and he's just continued to grow and stepped up for us in big moments when we needed him. But yeah, I think kind of as you look across the whole entire program, excuse me, everybody's all business when we're in the building and out on the field. But then you get outside of it, and we're really just. I mean, we're not regular people. We still have a lot to do, but every once in a while we get a little free time, hop on the video games, and just kind of relax a little bit. But Will's definitely a character. He's a good kid.
Do you need to grab a quick drink of water before we go to Dave?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
We'll go next to Dave Jones.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, man. We were talking to Kirk yesterday, day before, and it's pretty apparent that he loves the fact that he's got all these running backs. And it sounds as though he's the kind of, all good coordinators use what they have. Do offensive linemen like focusing on the running game, as the cliche is that the way you feel? If you can run the ball, if you can pound, do you like to do it more, or will you do anything that's effective?
I mean, yeah, obviously whatever's working is working, but at the end of the day, if you can run the ball really effectively, it's going to open up a lot of other aspects of your offense and just help things click a lot better. So if you can really get out there and just kind of ground and pound, keep running the ball, it's going to open up a lot of things. And I think it also gives the O-line kind of a sense of pride when you get back to the locker room after a game and you have a couple hundred rushing yards. So, but at the end of the day, like you said, whatever's effective is going to help us win that day, and we'll do whatever we're asked.
We'll bounce back to Rich Scarcella, who has another question.
Mike, I know you've talked about this, about how excited you are about playing for Coach Trout. Now that you're on the field, what are some of the tangible things that you're seeing that's reflective of his coaching style, and does it make you even more excited for the season?
Yeah, like you said, I've been excited about Coach Trout since the day that we hired him. Just the experience that he brings from playing in the NFL, and seeing people do all the stuff he's teaching us live against the best players in the world. But yeah, getting out on the field, he's a high energy guy, very positive, but I mean, he'll rip into you if he needs to. But he demands a lot out of us, and I think everybody across the board has gotten a ton better so far. And I'm just excited to see where we can continue to build and see where we'll be by the time game one comes around.
It's a great answer. Thank you for that. Ben, we'll go to you next for a question.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just going off that, has there been any big technique changes with Coach Trout coming in?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, playing O-line kind of revolves around the same type of technique things, but each coach has their own twist to it. And I think Coach Trout, just like I just said, playing off of his experience from being around the best, he kind of knows what works and what doesn't from a lot higher level than we do, obviously. But each coach has their own little spin on technique and stuff. But I think probably the biggest thing for him is just firing off the ball or getting off the ball really quick in the run game, and just playing in your legs, kind of all the way around. Playing in your legs and having a really good base is probably his biggest key to run game and pass game.
Thank you for that. We will go next to Will Pegler.
Thank you. Hey, Michael, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So we talked with Will Levis earlier today. He kind of compared you to like a dad almost on the offensive side of the ball. Is that something you take pride in, just being a mature guy on the team and being a guy that, you know, guys can come to and look up to?
Yeah, I think when you've been here as long as I am, you kind of just are molded into that role. Just being one of the old guys that's been around the block per se, kind of seen it all, done it all so far. And it also helps that I look like I'm at least 30. So, yeah, I think I've kind of just always been a little bit more mature and just business-like. So it's just kind of the role I've fallen into.
Thank you for that. We'll go back again to Rich Scarcella and then Dave Jones next.
I'm glad that was brought up, because I was going to bring that up to you about Will calling you a 30-year-old. So are you called grandpa or old man or any nicknames like that by any of your teammates or friends? And I know you've always looked way older than you are. And just, is it something that you don't seem to mind that? It doesn't bother you?
No, I don't mind it. Nobody calls me grandpa or anything. But yeah, I don't really mind it. I've always looked older since I was a young kid. People used to ask for my birth certificate and stuff playing youth football. And that's just something that I feel like a lot of kids on the team have dealt with, just as far as size. But yeah, I've always looked a little older. I really don't mind.
Dave, we'll go to you next.
Mike, getting back to how long you've been there, you really have been there all the way back to 16 was your redshirt freshman season. And this offensive line has come so far. It looks like one of the best ones in the Big Ten, at least on paper. Can you give some recollections watching early in the season, especially in 2016, how the parts had to be switched in and out, and how crazy that must have been, and then where you guys have come since then? Because that was a chaotic season, especially early with all the injuries.
Yeah, like you said, there was a ton of injuries early on in that season, a ton of moving parts, tons of guys had to step up into bigger roles, including Connor McGovern, who really stepped up that year. It was a starter. I think it was maybe from the Indiana game on. I can't quite remember, but like you said, there was tons of moving parts. And I think the biggest difference between then and now is just the amount of depth that we have. Whether there's moving parts or not, we have plenty of guys that can step up and play the role, and there's not going to be a drop-off. I think that's one of our strongest points this year.
Thank you for that answer. Ben, we have a follow-up question from you.
Yeah, Michael, I was just wondering, like, with no fans this season, wondering how you think that's going to kind of affect you guys on the offensive line. I mean, I know because on one hand, it should be easier to make calls and communicate, but also on the other hand, probably should be easier for the defense to pick up on some stuff. So just kind of wondering how you guys are going to handle those no fans and that communication aspect.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a ton easier to communicate. It probably is going to be harder in practice with how loud we play the music sometimes. But I don't think we're really too worried about them picking up signals and stuff, or our calls and all that kind of stuff. We kind of have a new way that we're doing stuff this year, so I don't think it'll be a huge factor, but if it is, we'll obviously adjust.
Thank you for that answer. Rich Scarcella, let's go to you next.
Mike, from a fan's perspective, what do you think they will notice first? What difference do you think they'll notice about the offensive line this year?
I know for a fact that we're going to be the most prepared offensive line in the country, probably when it comes game day. Just the amount of detail that Coach Trout puts into game planning, and just the amount of detail he's putting right now into correction notes from practice and pre-practice notes on what we're doing that day. I can only imagine how his pre-game notes are going to be. And I think there's not going to be one look. There's always going to be looks that we don't see because defense is game plan just like we do. But I think we're going to be really, really prepared, and we're going to know what's going on more than we ever have. And I think that's going to really lead to us being a very consistent group from the first snap to the last snap.
Thank you for that answer. Let's go to Ben next for a follow-up question.
I know you guys haven't been back in full pads for very long, but just who on the defensive line just kind of impressed you to this point so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been impressed.
Sorry about that. Got to quick trigger finger if you don't mind re-answering that question from Ben.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've always been impressed with and guys like Antonio and PJ, just how they come out and they work every day. But I think one of the guys kind of, I don't know about if surprised me is the best word, because I've always thought he's gonna be a good player, but he's really started to show it more recently. He's Akeem Beeman. I think he's been doing a lot of really good things at practice so far, and I'm really excited to see how he plays this year.
Dave Jones, we'll come to you next.
Mike, if you can describe to fans or people who haven't played how much more important it is for offensive linemen in general to get contact compared to other players on the field. Is that true, first of all, and why, if so, especially offensive linemen, because they have to be synchronized? Yeah,
I think it's really important to kind of get those full speed reps in practice, especially for O-line, D-line, just because that's just the pace that we play at is always full speed and always you're hitting people every single play. Especially this year, I think for the O-line, developing some new techniques, as I kind of talked about earlier from Coach Trout, I think it's even more important now for us just to be able to get those full speed reps and kind of test out those new techniques and get comfortable with it as we head into the season.
It's a great question, Dave. Thank you. Let's go back to Rich Scarcella.
Mike, what does it mean to you when you see Juice Scruggs back on the field? How would you describe what he's been through over the last year and a half or so? Just can you give me some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm so excited to have Juice back out on the field doing his thing. Ever since he showed up, I was really excited about him. Just watching him go through drills and all that stuff when he was a freshman. I've always been excited about him. I think he's going to be a really, really good player, and I'm happy to see him healthy and getting out there and being able to work on his craft and just get better each and every day. And that's kind of how he's approached it. Obviously, been through a ton of adversity, but he's kind of rolled with the punches throughout the whole way and had a good attitude. And I mean, it's showing now and it's starting to come together for him. So I'm extremely happy to see that.
Rich, you buzzed in right away. Do you want to go ahead and follow up?
No, that's all right. Give Dave and Josh. I'll follow them.
Okay. Josh, let's have you come up next.
Well, I actually wanted to follow up on one of Rich's questions, so maybe this will fit. But Michael, I was just over in Juice's room, and one thing he talked about was coming back, the first hit he had to make, the first block he made, what that kind of meant to him. And he said he didn't think his teammates were really nervous about it, but I just wanted to ask you, were you holding your breath a little bit when he finally got back, and what was it like to see him, get on the field for that first time?
Yeah, I wasn't nervous. I think I was excited more than anything because, like I was saying, I've always known how good of a player he can be, just the tangibles that he has. I've been excited about him from the first day he got back, and to see him out there, honestly, it makes me happy because he's able to do what he loves again. And this is going to make him a better player and getting the reps and being able to be out there. So I'm excited to keep watching him grow.
Dave, let's hop back over to you, and then we'll go back to Rich.
Mike, Rose, if you could hold off on the mute, this is kind of two parts. First of all, Mike, how many offensive linemen ideally would you like to have in a rotation? 8? Is that about right?
I feel like that's more a question for Coach Troutline, but yeah, probably about 8 or 9 is
That's
probably.
yeah, that's conventional. So if that's so, usually the 8th guy comes in maybe, or a 9th guy comes in an emergency, might be a young guy, really young guy. When that happens, I suppose being grandpa, you are instructing these guys in certain ways on how to be ready. And that's happened every year. So how are you telling them?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to approach every single day like they're going to be the starter, and they need to prepare like they're going to be. They need to be in their playbooks. And I think there's just everybody's expected for there to not be a drop off, kind of no matter who's in there. And obviously, if you put a true freshman in there versus a 5th-year senior, there's going to be a difference. But the effort is probably the one thing that you can't coach, and that's the biggest part. If you have a guy that's going to go out there and at least just play really, really hard, even if his technique isn't there, then that's really all you can ask for, because a lot of that comes with just time and comes with the years. So that's probably the number one thing I could ever tell a young guy is just whenever you get your shot, make sure you're going at it 100%.
Thanks, Rose.
Rich, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Mike, what do you hope that your legacy at Penn State will be? How would you like to be remembered?
I think you asked me this question a couple of years ago. I think I should have a better answer now, hopefully. But if I could have my legacy at Penn State be however I wanted, I would just want to be remembered as the guy that came in every day and worked really hard, sacrificed for the team, always put the team first, and just kind of left it all out there. That's what I try to do every single day, because I always put the team first, and I think me leaving everything I can out on the field is the best way to do that.
Thank you.
We do have some more time. There might be some other people that jump into the room. Josh, do you have a follow-up question? I just answered you.
Here we go. Mike, I just kind of wanted to ask you overall. I mean, you've seen transformations of a lot of your teammates this offseason. Just curious, maybe who you've been most impressed with in terms of their transformation. Maybe who do you think is, if you could only pick one person whose name is not Michael Menet, who do you think maybe might be most poised for a breakout here?
That's tough to only pick one, because like I said earlier, we have a lot of guys right now on the offensive line that are playing at a really, really high level. And a lot of names that people probably don't know as much. But I think if I had to pick one, it'd have to be Caden Wallace. He's just coming in every day, embracing everything that Coach Trout is teaching, and he's really been playing very, very well. I'm really excited to see how he plays this year and kind of what his role grows into.
Josh, you want to keep going?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. I asked Juice the same question. He also said Caden Wallace, so I think that's pretty striking. What is it about him that's changed the most in your eyes from last year to this year? And are you surprised that you both said the same guy there?
No, I think that would be pretty consistent among the offensive line right now, either him or maybe another guy. But it doesn't surprise me. I think the biggest difference for him is he's really embraced being a technician, and just coming in every day with the goal of getting better and just putting everything he has toward that goal. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Thank you for that answer, Josh. That was a great follow-up question. Parth, do you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Towards the end of last season, we saw Journey Brown kind of come into his own. He ended up looking like one of the best running backs in the country, starting with that Minnesota game, I believe, week 6. What do you think kind of helped him flip that switch towards the end of the season?
I think Journey was kind of waiting for his time, waiting for his moment. We were splitting a lot of reps between running backs. Guys might have gotten a little banged up here or there. So his role kind of grew. in terms of him taking more reps, and I think he just decided that he was going to just go off. I don't really know how else to say it. I don't know if the last part of the season, if you could find a running back that was running harder than he was, running through people, around people, whatever he had to do. He was so hard to take down, and he was so determined every time he touched that ball. And I think that's kind of how his mentality always was, but I think it was just able to be seen a little bit better with him taking a couple more reps per game than he was. So obviously I'm extremely excited for him this year, and all our running backs, because we have a great running back core.
You've kind of seen him, obviously from the moment he got on campus, kind of grow as a person, both on and off the field. Just given his story, everything he's been through, losing his grandmother, losing other loved ones, what's allowed him to kind of overcome that adversity?
I think the biggest thing is just his maturity, how he attacks every situation, and then also just the love of the game that he has. I think football has kind of been an outlet for him when he's been going through some of this adversity. He's had a place to kind of put his time and put his energy and maybe shift his focus a little bit. So just his ability to be able to do that and just keep persevering and keep grinding, it's allowed him to just be a great football player. What
are some of your expectations for him? Like, what can we expect from Journey Brown in 2020?
I mean, like I kind of just said, I think he's going to be one of the hardest running backs to take down in college football. And he runs with such a determination that, I mean, you don't find very often. I think he's going to be really good. And I think one of the biggest things that's going to change from this year to last year is just his maturity. And I think that's going to help him a bunch too.
Appreciate it, Michael.
No problem.
Sean, did you have some questions for Michael?
I guess. Michael, how you doing?
Good, Sean. How you been?
Not too bad. Is football season cutting into your golf time?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm happy for it.
Have you beat your dad?
Have I beat my dad? I only went with my dad once when we were home. I think he beat me by one stroke, but neither of us played that good. So.
All right. Well, real quick, just curious about the field trout wine. The change has obviously been something that affects everybody from seniors on down. How have you hit it off with him, and what was it like to do that during a quarantine?
Yeah, it was definitely a little odd, just not being able to have that face-to-face interaction at first. But from the second we hired him, I just knew that I was going to like him. Before I even talked to him, I just knew I was going to like him because of the experience that he was able to bring to us. Just the fact that he played in the NFL, he had that experience. He was able to see people play the best in the world, as obviously it's such a high level. So he knew what works and what didn't. But me and him talked probably, but just between meetings and just phone calls, probably at least every other day, kind of throughout quarantine, getting to know each other. And I mean, I was bought in from the jump. I've kind of always believed in him and all his techniques and what he brings to the table. So I think he just continues to prove it too as we're moving forward in practice.
Has he leaned on you as one of the senior guys to get some buy-in in that room, or didn't it take much to get that buy-in?
I really don't think it took much, honestly. Just kind of how he carries himself, and just his background, I think, kind of spoke for itself. I think the buy-in happened pretty easily and almost immediately.
Speaking of almost immediately, Wiggins said earlier that you saw results almost immediately based on his teaching, his techniques, and things like that. Can you, I guess, confirm that and be like, what do you see differently from your vantage point?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could confirm that. Just kind of everything he teaches, when you really buy in and you do it consistently, your game just continues to elevate. Not going to give away our secrets, but just some like the little technique things that maybe some coaches overlook or just don't really stress as much, he does. And they're things that are easy in concept to do, but sometimes take a little bit of time to get adjusted to them. But once you do, like I said, you just see your game start to elevate.
I think Juice said that he was sort of demonstrating this stuff. I know he's a young guy, but how much has he gotten really in the mix with you guys?
Oh yeah, he jumps to demonstrate. You know, he doesn't hesitate at all. He still brags about how his sets are almost perfect. So, and they are, honestly. All his footwork and everything still looks really good. Obviously, he lost a ton of weight, so he couldn't still play, but he definitely still looks pretty polished. So he's able to show us firsthand kind of what it's supposed to look like.
One more, if you will. We had Juice a little bit earlier. What have you seen from him in the last year? It's obviously a long road back from him, and he's one of those guys that's been working at center. What have you seen from him?
I've seen a ton of great stuff from Juice. First off, I'm just so happy that he's out there, able to kind of continue to get better and keep working on his game. Because I've always been excited about Juice from the day he got on campus. So just to have him out there and continuing to get better is it's really, really good to see. And I mean, he's just attacking each day with a mindset of growth, and I think it's working for him so far. So I'm excited to see where he's able to get throughout camp.
I'm going to leave this open, but Dustin Hawkins-Smith is up next with his question.
Hey, Michael. I just wanted to ask, you've been part of this group for, going on 5 years now, and it's gotten better and better. What maybe is it about this group that you can kind of get over the top and get to that place where maybe you're doing more dominating instead of getting better, if you will?
Yeah. I think kind of like I was just saying, like Coach Trout, he just has, I think all of his techniques are really, really good. And he's seen them done at a high level. And when you really buy in and kind of force yourself to do them consistently, I think that's when you really start to see your game elevate. And I think that'll be our biggest key this year is just being able to do what we're taught consistently. And I think with the depth that we have in the room, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to dominate.
Mike, when we spoke in the spring, you mentioned how important your relationship with Troutwine is because you were the leader of the group and obviously he's a new face there. How has the last few months together with him allowed that relationship to grow even further?
Yeah, me and him talk a ton. And I think he kind of leaned on me initially just for that initial buy-in. Just because, like you said, I've been here for a while. I'm one of the leaders of the room, and as soon as I bought in, I felt everybody else buying in. But I honestly, I think just the way he carried himself and the experience that he brings to us, the buy-in was immediate from everybody. But yeah, our relationship's been able to grow a ton since we're able to kind of be around him in person, getting coached by him every day. He definitely brings a lot of energy, and I think it's great for our room.